Georgia wins 66-0. A big, powerful win by Georgia in terms of just offensive production. Defense didn't look good on the first drive. I mean, I guess you can score on Georgia on every first drive, but they looked a lot better after. I think today was one of those days where, I mean, nobody's even going to watch this video, but you can see how this thing can come together as the season goes on. I think you can only kick yourself for so long to losing a game you shouldn't have lost with South Carolina. That game's done. And today, I mean, they took no prisoners. I thought a lot of young guys played well today. I mean, obviously Sony had the most yards today. He had the longest run that a Georgia player's had since Todd Gurley last year against Clemson. It looks like Keith Marshall, it looks like is going to be okay, but he might not play against Tennessee. I mean, any little thing to a knee that's getting, so. And then as it relates to, Marshall Morgan played better, kicked pretty well for the most part. I want to focus right now, though, on the quarterbacks. I think that the difference between the two is Bryce Ramsey has the ability to make NFL-level throws, and he is going to have to develop himself mentally as it relates to where to distribute the ball. Faton Bauta doesn't have the capability necessarily to throw the ball, to run the offense the way that Georgia traditionally has run it. He scored 2 touchdowns today, and I think if he's not the backup, I think if you're Georgia, you want Faton to be on this team and in this program. I'm on the sideline a lot, obviously, and I have yet to see Faton Bauta be anything other than a very good teammate and always a grown adult. And it's not easy when somebody who's younger than you and less experienced than you comes in and snatches the 2 spot, which looks like what's happened. And the kid's acting like a pro. I mean, you get no guarantees in this game, and there's nothing saying Hudson will complete the, injury-free season, and there's nothing saying Bryce Ramsey couldn't have something bad happen to him in a practice. So I just, for me, it looks pretty clear from some of the throws that just the throws. This is what I've been talking about for multiple years now. It's clear that Bryce is likely I don't see how you can say anything other than he will likely be the starter in 2015. But it's 2014. And right now, this team played about as well as you want a team to play against a foe like this. They have had 2 knockout, drag-out fights with schools that are legitimate, BCS level schools, and then they've played Troy. There's been nothing to hang your head about if you're a Georgia partisan in this season thus far. The loss to South Carolina was a bad loss, but it's not like they rolled over and died like South Carolina did to Texas A&M. So those traits are what you look for, because inevitably each team in a conference, it seems unlikely unless it's Florida, who is now getting beat by Alabama, Tennessee, who comes here next weekend and is not going to be favored against Georgia, or Missouri goes undefeated. There's not going to be an undefeated team in the East. So the East race is on. Tennessee is better, but not at Georgia's level. They're not playing this game in Knoxville. If they were playing this game in Knoxville, I would think you want everything you can have. Georgia still doesn't have Malcolm Mitchell. They still don't have Justin Scott Wesley. They still don't have Jonathan Rump. You can't act like 2 of those 3 being out doesn't hurt, because it does. I thought Davin Bellamy played pretty well. I thought Lorenzo Carter played well. I thought the secondary they rolled a lot of guys back there, but today for me was 1, Sony Michel, 2, Bryce Ramsey, 3, defensive performance. Colin Barber's got to get better at punting. Mark Richt was about to go nuts on him out there today. It's for a lot of these guys. Colin's older now. He's not a young guy. For Bryce, it's about consistency. Today, this was the first time that kid's played, so it's understandable that he didn't have a knockout performance the whole time. But you talk to people off the record, those throws that he made today, those NFL throws, that's common. That's normal. So, I think there's a lot to be pleased about when you look around and you see Nick Chubb had virtually no influence on this game. Keith Marshall is still struggling to get going. This team is still in its infancy in a lot of ways, and I just, they don't need to kick themselves for losing to South Carolina for long, because you can't have one loss to South Carolina beat you twice in a season. So it's a long year. Today was meaningless, but it did shed light onto a few things we were wondering about. Todd Gurley, I can't see how he's not going to wind up in New York at the Heisman ceremony at a minimum. Bryce Ramsey has the most NFL potential of any of the quarterbacks on campus currently, and the defense still has issues that it has to deal with in the secondary, but it's going to be tough to run on these guys. And with the exception of A&M, Missouri, and other teams Georgia plays, Auburn, Arkansas, Florida, those are running teams first, and Georgia may match up well in those situations. Tennessee, Georgia Tech. I thought South Carolina matched up well with Georgia just in certain situations. Georgia got to be careful of these road games, got to be wary of Tennessee in any conference game. But today was one of those days where you look around and you're like, these guys are pretty good now. These guys are pretty good. All right, 66-0, biggest win, Wes, since the Bulldogs beat the Citadel Bulldogs in 1958. Okay, Dean Legge for Dog Post, wrapping it up here in Sanford Stadium.